Do we know how many we have that are going to be in? All of them? Russ?
I don't know yet.
Sure. And do my little spiel. Good afternoon, and welcome to the 2021 Here Now Audio Fiction and Arts Festival Virtual Edition, and our producers panel for the Podcast Palooza. My name is Tony Brewer, and I'm president of the National Audio Theater Festivals, producers of this 9th Here Now Festival. And I want to take this minute to thank our festival sponsors, the Missouri Arts Council and Radio Drama Network. Also sponsors Sound Booth Theater, Midsummer Sound Company, Earplay, Writers Guild at Bloomington, and Tom Dukeman. These folks gave us their in-kind support, the Media School at Indiana University, SAG-AFTRA, the Monroe County Civic Theater of Indiana, Whisper Incorporated, Sennheiser, and Podium Audio. Thanks so much for being here, and we hope you have enjoyed and continue to enjoy the rest of the festival. I'm going to turn it over now to our two panelists, Festival Director of Here Now and Vice President of the National Audio Theater Festivals, Russell McGee, Chair of the Podcast Palooza, Stephen Brown.
Okay, Russell.
Hi, Stephen. Actually, I'm not quite sure why Tony gave it over to me, because I know, Steve, you're running this, so I'll let you take the lead.
Okay, very good. First of all, I would like to welcome all of you to this event. And now that I've shown the little animation there, I would like to welcome all of you to the event, and in particular, calling it the Platinum Club. That's I just came up with something a little different. As most of you know, this event, the Podcast Palooza, has always been an exciting event. In the past, I've had entries that have won, not at the platinum level, and we had over 100 entries this year, and that set a record, which was incredible. And it had, and in my opinion, at least with talking to a number of those of you who are on screen now, and many people who entered, that I don't think it had that much to do with the pandemic or anything of that nature. It's just the whole area of creativity and being involved in all the audio theater, all the broadcasting, podcast, whatever format, whatever platform, any of our award winners. Of the 100 entries, we have nine individuals, 9 entries rather, that were awarded, that earned. I like to say earned, not awarded. You earned that at the platinum level. Our format is going to be fairly obvious. I will introduce each of the Platinum Award winners, and we'll do it alphabetically by the title of their programs. So irrespective of what someone's last name might be, we'll do it that way. But let me also say that it's been my pleasure and honor to serve as chair. I'm also executive producer of the 26th time award-winning WGTD Radio Theater. WGTD Public Radio is located in Kenosha, Wisconsin, in southeastern Wisconsin, and my co-producer and partner in doing all the writing, Michael Olstrup, created the radio theater 16 years ago. And these are original scripts that he and I and a few others write, but 126 original scripts over those years. Anyway, because I know we have an hour and we've already taken about 4.5 minutes, I'm going to start with the first, and I'll change my background so I can keep it all in place here. The first person that I'd like to talk to, and by the way, if you have questions at all, there's the opportunity for you to ask questions at any time, and I know that we'll also be monitoring the chat side of Zoom, but there's also the other formatter that you can enter and ask questions. But Russell McGee. Russell McGee he's on screen here, and obviously has been involved with Podcast Palooza and the National Audio Theater Festival and Here Now for many years. But the program that he submitted called Back to Nothing, and Russell, welcome.
Thank you. And actually, I'm joined with both the writer, Mike Brainerd, and I believe also my student, Skylar Smile, who is here, who did the sound design. And I mentioned that because we actually did this as part of a sound design class at Indiana University. And the way I do that is I present the material to my students as if it were being done professionally at production that I might have been handed off at Big Finish Productions, where we're just given all of the raw files, and then the students have to edit it all together as far as the dialogue edit, and then adding in all of the sound design elements. So I'm really thrilled that Skylar is here also to be honored. And I don't know if Mike first. Mike, would you like to say something really quick?
I would like to thank my agent, who I don't have. No, thanks a lot, you guys. I really appreciate it. It means a lot.
But by the way, before we continue, I also want to thank all of our judges who participated in the judging. 5 judges at both the round 1 and round 2 levels. And again, just with the sheer numbers, there was an extraordinary amount of not just time, but the effort in listening to all the programs. Anyway, Russell, I'll turn it over to you. Why don't you take maybe 3 or 4 minutes, you and your colleagues who participated in Back to Nothing, to tell us a bit about the program.
One thing that I would like to say before I hand it over to Skylar is that this was actually one of the first things that was produced during the pandemic from IU. We actually were in the middle of the class, and the students were finishing up their midterm projects and getting ready for these final projects. So I reached out to Mike to actually see if he was willing to write something. And Mike, I'll let you say something about that, and then we'll turn it over to Skylar.
Okay, real quick. I'm an actor as well, and I used to work on All My Children. And back in the late 80s, when I was on that show, I was on the show with Kate Collins, which is Michael Collins' daughter, the Apollo astronaut. And I would talk to her about him then because I was fascinated. I had read his biography about just the idea of going to the moon, but not being able to put your foot on it. He was the guy who orbited the moon, awaiting for to pick up the other guys. And so I thought, then I told her I was going to write a play, and I never did. And then this idea came around, the idea of isolation. Russell and I had talked about, and so I gave birth to it, handed it over. That's it.
And then Skylar took the mantle from there, and I worked with him, directing him in post-production. And Skylar, since you are here, why don't you talk about what you did as far as the sound design?
Yeah, so sorry if there's some background noise. I'm in a mall on a break from work, but yeah, my background is in music production, so this was completely new to me, but all the skills seem to like translate pretty fluidly from like music production into podcast production. So like I seen a question about like the atmosphere and some of the soundscapes. So for me, I just went to my roots. I pulled up a synth, made some pads, like even for some of the drill sounds, like some of the tools, I made a synth that would sound like that. I used Splice a lot, which is, I also use it in some music production. It's like you pay a little monthly fee, and then you can go and pick out some royalty-free sounds that you can use. And a lot of those were really helpful. But yeah, for me, it was pretty easy. The actors were great. All the, I didn't have to go through much dialogue and pick out the best spots. They were all really great. I loved the story, and, it was really nice just to kind of, especially with a story about being in space, being a.
Oh. You're muted, Skylar. We lost you for a second there.
Oh, sorry. I said being able to do this story about being in space, being lonely, it was really nice to sort of minimalize everything and be real minimalistic in the sound design and what kind of you would hear if you were up in space with Mike.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you both. And Steve, thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Alphabetically, the next of our programs, our awards, Jordan Crafton, and I don't see Jordan online at the moment. Brooklyn Santa. And by the way, just so you all know, that voting has been taking place and very active voting for Podcast Palooza programs. I think over 140 votes so far. And this will be running for the whole month until the 23rd of July. So it's going to be really fascinating. And Brooklyn Santa is one of the programs, one of the audio programs that won a Platinum Award. And I don't think is there anyone else who might have been involved with Brooklyn Santa that I would not know their name other than Jordan? Okay, our next Platinum Award winner, Casey Wayland, and Bronzeville season 2. And I've had the opportunity, by the way, of listening to all the programs, almost all 100 of them. I'm not going to sit here and say I listened to every single second of every program, but I have listened to all of our Platinum Award winners. Casey, tell us a bit about Bronzeville season 2. If there's anyone else who's part of your group, your team, please feel free to introduce them as well. And welcome, Casey.
Thank you. Yeah, everyone can hear me all right?
You're a little on the soft side there, low side.
I can turn it up a little bit. There we go.
Yeah, that's better.
Hey, everybody. Yeah, thank you for having me. I am by myself. I invited some of the other cast and crew. Unfortunately, just being the date, they couldn't be here today. But I just wanted to give a couple shout outs to the executive producers, Helen Suglin, LaRon Tate, and Lawrence Fishburne, who were instrumental in making this happen. This was another fairly huge project. We had over about 100 different voice actors on it, and we picked up into the second season here. And it was a fairly complex project. We actually were able to record this before the pandemic, but then our entire post-production process kind of got upended by COVID, where we couldn't have all our editors in the same room at the same time. And so it sort of it was very staggered, and we barely were able to do a lot of the Foley that we would like have done, just because of the restrictions that we had, because it was in the real big thick of it there. But I wanted to give also a shout out to our sound designing team, Victoria Cheng, Gino Jang, and Charlie Magdaleno, who were instrumental in making this happen. So this was a big one. This was a big project for us, to get all these little pieces in place. And there's a lot of elements and sequences that we did in this that I kind of pushed the envelope of what we could do with sound. And it was complicated, but it was a lot of fun. And I had a kind of a blast putting this project together. And anytime you go from a season 1 to a season 2, it always adds a little bit more complication, but also some things are like, oh, okay, we're just getting back in the swing of things. So it was a good time.
Give us a sense of this was season 2. The overall thrust of the program. I mean, it's fascinating how it's done. What's one aspect of season 2 that's different from season 1 for those of us who did not listen to season 1 yet?
Weirdly enough, and sadly enough, a lot of the racial tension that were experiencing last year, and still experiencing today, but we saw it on the forefront last year, was part of the core storytelling of this season, where we were handling a really topical things, and it was a lot of there's a lot of moral ambiguity inside of this season that didn't really come up in the first one. And we also did a lot more things that are a little bit more sound dynamic. Like there's a sequence in the first episode where there's a fire sequence, and we had Oba Babatunde playing Harry Davis, which, in my opinion, if you can give an Oscar to anybody for performance, it would be that performance inside this series, and sort of what that character goes through the trial and everything of the second season. So I think that was the big thing that we brought this season. It's sadly more topical than we thought when we were first kind of jumping into this one.
Sure. Okay. Very good. Thank you. And I thought I had your logo on my screen, and I apologize for that. Our next award winner. This is Sarah Mead and Choreomania. And Sarah, first of all, having listened to it, I know what the title means, but give our viewers right now, rather, a little overview of Choreomania, how the idea came about.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Sarah from KZMU in Moab, and we also have Jenna Wetzel, who is the writer and director. And Jenna, you can go ahead and unmute yourself if you want, so you can jump in. Choreomania was Jenna's brainchild. Jenna is a person who works here in Moab and is a playwright and a theater aficionado, a person who's been involved in theater since she was a child. And she actually came up with this idea of Choreomania, and it was sort of right in line with what was happening with our current plague. And Jenna, maybe you can kind of explain why you were inspired about it and what it means. What is Choreomania?
Yeah, thank you for having us, by the way. Choreomania just means dance fever. The story was obviously inspired by our current plague that we're going through. And I kind of selfishly just wanted to be involved in theater during a pandemic. And it's also, I think we have to look to comedy to make things lighter, obviously. So it's about the plague in Germany, it was France at the time, Strasbourg. It's in 1518, everybody just started dancing. It started with this one woman named Frau Trophia, and she just went out in the street and started dancing. And hundreds of people joined her, and they literally danced themselves to death. They had like bloody stumps, and they just kept dancing and dancing and dancing. And finally, they marched up to St. Vitus's monastery and stopped dancing. And they have no idea why they started dancing or why they stopped. And the play it's in 3 parts. It's kind of goes through theories that they had of why this might have started, from this ergot mold that was on their rye, which has properties of LSD. So maybe they were tripping down the street, or they thought witches did it, because back then they thought, witches did everything. Women are evil. So it explores why, and then also it ends with them going up to St. Vitus's monastery, and there's some parody songs in there. It was just meant to be a lighthearted way of giving 10 people who were involved something to do this winter, January through March. And also, hopefully the listeners could get through, they could listen to it and laugh, because, even though hundreds of people did die in 1518, it's a little bit enough removed from where we are so that we can laugh at them. No disrespect, but it was just really fun. We put in a bunch of safety measures. The cast, there was 11 characters played by 5 people, and they were amazing. And we had such a good time, and we just, it also had some parodies. There was a character named King Max who was supposed to be good old Donnie T. So it was supposed to be funny. It was making fun of Donald Trump, obviously. I'm sorry if that offends anyone. But yeah, it was just kind of timely, and I had fun writing it, and I hoped my cast had fun doing it, and people had fun listening to it. So thank you guys so much for this award.
Yes, yeah, thank you to everybody. And I would also like to say that Jenna, this was the second radio theater piece that Jenna produced for KZMU. The one she produced last year is called Wormhole, the musical. And Anna, by the way, Mike, thank you for that compliment, and KC as well. And Anna had a great question about how we kept that feeling, the sense of ensemble throughout the whole piece. And that was something that Jenna and I felt really passionately about, because in the past, all of KZMU's live radio plays had been performed as a group, either up here at the radio station and broadcast live, or for years 2 through 5, we transitioned to just doing the whole thing live on stage downtown and simulcasting it or rebroadcasting it later. But still, you know, we have a sound engineer, a Foley table, the actors are set up with their scripts, and it's very minimal in terms of visuals and really emphasizing the audio part. And knowing that it would be really challenging, especially January through March of this year, of getting people in a room safe that is compliant with our county's guidelines and the CDC's guidelines. There were so many times where we were concerned that we would have to change everything and go straight to you know, doing it later or something like that. So we had everybody in one room in our local community center, and we had them spaced about 6 to 8 feet apart, and everybody had their own set of headphones. Shout out to Sweetwater for their assistance in helping us get all the gear and the headphone amps we need so that everybody could hear what was going on. We had an amazing Foley table and sound engineer that were able to be kind of across from everyone, see what was going on, to link up with cues. And we had a live band in the room. We had a live pianist and a live percussionist. And so they were also watching everybody, helping with cues. And then we had a sound engineer who had his own mixer who was monitoring all the levels live. So the broadcast was exactly what was happening live in the moment at the local community center.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much. And our next audio award, Platinum Award winner, and I love the name as I do the title of all of our winners both platinum, gold, silver, and bronze, by the way. Craig Lockhart is the name of the program, and Frank Hudek, welcome, and tell us a bit about Craig Lockhart, the storyline, how it all came about, and anything else you want to share. And if you have any of your colleagues, part of your team, please introduce them.
Hi everyone. Please let me know if my internet goes out. It's pretty bad, but Time Warner Spectrum. Unfortunately, James Fowler, who co-produced and edited, I was hoping he'd be on, but he actually has a short film at the Roosevelt Island Film Festival going on right now. So he might be in a Q&A there. So he was going to try to do it from his phone. So I don't know if he's going to stop in or not. The story is that actually I've never made a audio drama before. And when the lockdown happened in New York, I live in New York City, on I think it was last March 22nd. Spent a few weeks trying to like find an activity, you know, to keep me from going insane. And I was going to scan a bunch of film negatives, and then I ran out of dust off. And so I was like, what am I going to do? And I remembered I had written this, and then I thought, well, it only involves a few characters. I can talk to some friends in theater. Maybe I can cast and do the whole thing over Zoom, which is exactly how I did it. So it was James and I both mostly, well, you know, we try to work in film. We don't really know anything about this. And so it was a lot of trial and error. And also it was just the two of us. And so James acted almost like as an assistant director at times, as well as, you know, like calling out takes and whatnot. And we just did everything over Zoom. I cast a friend of ours, Gregory Wolf, who runs a theater company, knew some people. I cast them. I did auditions over Zoom. Then I went and, I got referrals from those actors for other people, and built a cast. And then we recorded over about 2-week period. And because James and I didn't know what we were doing, it took us 4 months because we also couldn't see each other. It was the same thing. Like we were, you know, literally it was like, try this. And then we would like, we transfer the file to the other person and then call the other one up. And it just took forever. And we actually weren't able to meet in person until late summertime. And so, we didn't really make our own Foley effects or anything like that. We basically stole them from everything, and then we just mixed them together and then tried to like sort of create our own stuff. I even did some weird things where I took like music, found like a video of somebody showing bowstring for technique, and I like slowed it down to 5% to create this weird wailing effect to put underneath stuff to sort of create tension, things like that. So it was a lot of fun, actually. I really enjoyed it, and it certainly kept me from going crazy. And as far as the story of Craig Lockhart, I had watched, the play is actually old. It's like 20 years old. It had just been sitting on a shelf. I had, like I said, I write scripts and TV stuff. And I thought one time I just decided I would write a play. And I thought, well, you know, because nothing could be worse than film. And then I discovered theater companies. And then anyway, so I basically just shelved it out of frustration. So what I did was I'd watched a 6-part series on World War I. It was so awful, I couldn't believe it. I was just in shock. There were 2 people, Siegfried Sassoon and Wilfred Owen, who are famous poets who actually were at Craig Lockhart, and they were receiving psychiatric treatment for PTSD. And so I used them as sort of the models for the characters. But then there was one particular thing that I found very disturbing, was footage of people who had gotten their faces destroyed by shrapnel. And there was no plastic surgery at the time, so people would wear face masks. You know, they would have them built for them. And there's film footage of this man being fitted with it, and it was so incredibly sad. You could just see in this guy's eyes, like his, you know, this is his only chance of ever looking normal again. So I decided that Siegfried Sassoon would have had his face blown off. And so that's basically how I built these characters. And then, you know, I created a suffragette sister that is to the Wilfred Owen character, who in our case is named Arthur. And I found out there was women who were working in munitions factories, were getting poisoned from TNT, and their hair would turn like ginger colored. And so, so I created her character from that. And then also there were a lot of deaths at the time, like an insane number of people dying. So people became really into mysticism, and like, you know, Arthur Conan Doyle, for instance, started practicing seances. So I thought there would be a character who did that. So I bring that into it as well. The mother character of the Siegfried Sassoon character, David Allister's mother, Martha, she practices seances. And so that's basically, you know, what happened. You know, how,
Frank, after listening to Craig Lockhart, I watched once again the wonderful film 1917. I don't know
which
if any
I have
of you...
not. So I actually never watched it. I meant to, but it's just one of those things that
it's really extremely well done. But you know, it obviously no wars are there's no such thing as, in my opinion, as a good war, if you know what I mean. But 1917. Mm-hmm. But after listening to Craig Lockhart, I went back and watched once again 1917. But David Allister and the storyline is wonderful.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I mean, it's always been kind of a favorite of mine, so I didn't want it just to die on my shelf. And so, sure, you know, this actually turned out to be a great opportunity. And one of the things I've always thought about is, because he's disfigured, like when they made The Elephant Man into a movie, you know, apparently when it was a play, you know, there was no prosthetics or anything like that. You know, David Bowie just walked around like crippled and, you know, in a sort of a loincloth, and he just pretended. So I think that's one thing that's kind of liberating about doing it in a sound only environment, is people can react to it and talk about it, but you don't have to see it, you can imagine it. And so I thought that actually worked out really well. And so, you know, it just turned out to be sort of a bonus in doing it to me. But anyway, thank you for the award and the recognition, because, you know, it's tough out there.
Sure. Okay, thank you so much. Our next discussion is to listen to Jessica Gittens. I hope I pronounced your last name correctly. Talk to us a bit about Little Boots, what it's all about, and how the idea came about.
Of course. Well, first of all, can everyone hear me okay? All
yes.
Good. Lovely. So first of all, good evening from Wales. It's very exciting to be here. And thank you so much. I'd like to introduce, I'm Jess. I'm one of the lead sound designers and a voice actor on Little Boots. And I've also got in the panel Anna Sherratt, who was also on sound design and was a voice actor. I've got Dan Abbott, who was the writer of the piece and also a voice actor. I've got Catherine Mary, lead producer and voice actor, and I've got Owen Watts in the same window as Catherine, who was also sound editing and an actor as well. So we've got quite a crew here. So any questions you want to ask, we've got plenty of people to answer them. So Little Boots, it started pretty similar actually. It's a piece that Dan actually wrote a few years ago, and we've done a reading of it. We're predominantly based in theatre. We're kind of two separate theatre companies in the local area, and when lockdown happened, we'd been sitting on this piece for a while, and we both theatre companies really wanted to do it. We're both very much into our period style things, and Little Boots was something we were really passionate about. So we thought we've got some people who are really interested in sound design, soundscape making. Anna's absolutely brilliant at instrumental making, so she did a lot of our music for us. So thank you, Anna. We basically developed it over Zoom, like you did, like you described, Frank. There was a lot of Zoom working. Our cast was made up of a lot of friends we had from university. We did drama, so we had a list of contacts, and we were lucky enough to be able to get quite a few of them to help us out with this. It was all done remotely, so there was the challenge of that, as I'm sure we can all sympathise with. So all the editing was done remotely as well. Luckily, 4 of us do live together. Me, Catherine, Dan and Owen all live together, so we were able to shout up and down the stairs a few times. Can you look at this draft for me? Yeah, okay. So I suppose we were lucky in that regard. But it's been an absolutely wonderful process. If I'd like to invite Dan to maybe talk about the piece itself, as he's the writer, it's his baby, really.
I was sort of dreading you'd ask, to be honest. But yeah, so as Jess mentioned, it was originally a theatre piece that I wrote. It was fairly, I said, really, it was quite heavily inspired by the 1979 Caligula, starring Malcolm McDowell, which is, for those who have seen it, pure filth, and I love it. But it's a very kind of debauched, quite excessive in a lot of ways, produced partly by Penthouse and Bob Guccione. Yes, as Frank's mentioned, Gore Vidal's Caligula, or as is mentioned in the credits, adapted from an original screenplay by Gore Vidal because he disowned it immediately once he'd seen what Bob and his cronies had done to it. But it was that film, as well as Albert Camus' Caligula as well, which deals a lot with the kind of mental process of Caligula himself, Gaius, as he is in Little Boots. But I think the main sort of thrust I wanted with both the original piece and with this audio version was widening the scope, I suppose, because with both the film and the play, Caligula is obviously the main focus, but there's not much room given to explore the other characters within that world, like Cassius Chaerea, who is credited with assassinating Caligula, his wife, Melonia Caesonia, and his sisters as well, most prominently Drusilla, played by Jess, and Agrippina, played by Anna here. And yes, Catherine played Melonia as well, and Owen played Chaerea, so it all works out, doesn't it? But yeah, I wanted to expand those characters because, of course, my main sources were the original historical sources, so Suetonius and Cassius Dio, and another one whose name I can't remember at the moment. I want to say Tacitus, but I can't remember. But either way, there's so little to go off in the sources. It does give you a lot of kind of creative license to really go off on one about that, pretty much. So it was really liberating in that sense as well, and just really fun to explore as a consequence. I just pretended that the third sister didn't exist, which is quite fun. But yeah, it was the most I did to kind of adapt it to audio was basically put in a few directions, which was basically like storm effects and noises here. So it was a minor miracle that Jess, Anna, and Owen were able to wrangle that into something actually really quite bracing and powerful, with all the kind of the soundscape work and the music and all that, and was, you know, just giving the words so much more weight than they would have had otherwise. So yeah, that's my bit.
Dan, in actually writing, I mean, all of us have been obviously involved in production at all levels, writing as well as I have, and everyone else on the screen that we're watching and listening to right now. But give us a sense of how much time it took to actually write the script.
So in the adaptation probably took about half a month, because it was really just adding those audio directions. So it wasn't like a great kind of process. But I suppose with the original piece, I kind of wrote the second half of it in a wild flurry in about a month, and then spent sort of drafting it and redrafting it from there. So I guess over the course of about, from the original gestation of the idea, I suppose, I want to say like December 2016, and then the first draft had finished around June 20, or the year after. So about a 6 months process for the first draft, and then continuously tweaking it and adapting it. I think when we did the original read through, it was the third draft,
Sure.
which was, I fought the final one in my hilarious naivety. So I suppose roughly 6 months, and then just on and off tweaking from there.
Sure.
Really.
Sure. By the way, one of the questions, Richard Fish, who's online, who airs a wonderful program at WFHB FM in Indiana, but wanted to ask, and this is a general question that many of our entrants have asked, is, you know, can any of these be broadcast on over the air, or, you know, either over the internet or actually over the airwaves? And that's one of the things that obviously for the Podcast Palooza, everyone always asks. So in the chat line, in the chat board here online, he gives some information. So you might want to take a look at that, Dan, and all of you whose programs have your audio programs that have won awards. Please refer to the information from Richard Fish. Richard, welcome as always, and I'm sure you'll have some questions in a few minutes. I wanted to move us forward just because of time, and from Little Boots we moved to Relativity, and I love the title. It's a wonderful program. I've listened to it. Lee Shackelford, or is it Shackelford? I always want to get it correct.
I always say shackle like shackle, Ford like Ford.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
So Lee, tell us about Relativity and how the program came about, and anything else you'd like to share, and also if you have any of your any of your colleagues who are part of your team with us.
Thank you so much. And I don't have any of my team with me simply because I didn't think of it, which is now embarrassing. But I'll share the recording with them. But and also the writer and lead actor and post-production supervisor and everything else is, so really a lot of the team is here. Like Frank, I have a playwright, screenwriter, and I have worked in those worlds, and did sort of yearn to just write something that nobody was going to say no to, and that I could just go out and do by myself. And but I conceived this show as a sort of a phone conversation. So I knew there would just be, maybe there's just two people in this story, but it is about set in the near future, and a spaceship that turns out to have only one person on it, even though it was built for 21. And the question is, what happened to all those other people? And we're slowly unpacking this mystery of what the hell is going on the ship. And meanwhile, there is the flight director, there is mission control, and she is trying to hold everything together. The ship has a destination, it has to get there, and we'll find out why that's so important as the story goes along. But I really wanted it to be about the relationship between these two people. They are as different can be, but as the physical distance between them increases, their emotional distance closes. So that was sort of the original conceit of that, was to really to challenge myself as a writer to see if I could do it. And then as I was writing, I found that it was very hard to sustain the drama, cliffhanger after cliffhanger, with just those two people. And so I started bringing in other characters, which, since I'd established that he's alone, was tricky. But we had fun, all of us actors who got involved, figuring out ways to make that happen. And
Lee, how long did the whole process take from beginning to end?
2016 to 2020.
Wow.
And because I did know that there was an end point in sight, I was able to air our triumphant conclusion in September last year. And yes, and it's been, and now it's being lauded all over the place, and I am just humbled and amazed at the journey, the real journey of the show. It's just been breathtaking.
Sure. By the way, a question from Anna. What were the main challenges and things to consider when building that sense of isolation?
Well, that's a really good question. I wanted to the extent that it's possible in a sci-fi fantasy universe, I wanted to be very realistic about the growth of those relationships. And as the story went along, Elena Jordan, my fabulous partner on this, she said she wanted to hear more about the people that she's surrounded by back on Earth. And so we began to have this sort of crowded world of people around her. And by contrast, my character, Chris, it emphasized how very alone he is. And it was interesting to capitalize on that. Something I learned from Ben Burt and from, may I say, Russell McGee, is the importance of ambience. And so I always made sure that in the environments where we hear Chris, he is always surrounded by these what sound like immense open spaces. And I always feel like that, at least in my mind, to my ear, that helped a lot.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Sure. And anything with science fiction, I'll just make a personal comment. I've always loved, my first cousin through marriage was Leonard Nimoy, Mr. Spock from Star Trek. So I grew up at family events, and so anything sci-fi, just I'm always drawn to. I apologize for talking about that sometimes. So now don't make a big deal about that. But anyway, he was a wonderful person. Anything else you'd like to add, Lee, before we talk to Michael Herman and talk about the Call of the Void? I'm sorry, Call of the Wild. I'm sorry.
I yield back the remainder of my time.
Okay, thanks so much. Our next, actually, Call of the Void. I was correct. I'm looking at the letter, Michael and Josie, that I sent to you, and I apologize for the incorrect original letter that I sent you. Anyway, tell us a bit about the Call of the Void and anything else you'd like to share with us. And welcome.
Oh, you bet. Hi. So first and foremost, we're so grateful to be here. Thank you for having us. It's so cool to see like creators at this level and just like, I don't know, talk with you guys and everything. So just really cool. So thank you. Just really a privilege to be here. But we are the team behind Call of the Void.
Yeah. So we're Michael and Josie. We're a married couple, artistic collaborators. And
we're super indie focused, which is like AKA broke.
AKA broke.
Our budgets are very small, but we're very scrappy in how we try to like assemble everything together. And we're in our second season. So this is Call of the Void season 2. We ran 9 episodes for season 1, and then this is season 2, and there's 9 episodes here as well. They all average right around 25 minutes or so.
Yep. And we're currently in production for our 3rd and final season next year.
Which will come out in 2022. One of the things we were super interested in this season, to get a little spacey with you, get a little like academic, was subjective versus objective reality. That sort of became this sort of battle that happened very metaphorically for one of our characters in season 2. I don't want to spoil too much of it, but we like to take big concepts like that and sort of bring them into character stories. In fact, the idea of the Call of the Void itself is that sensation you have when you're standing on the edge of a cliff and your brain's like, hey, you could jump. And you're like, whoa, that's awful. Why do I want to jump now? Or like, why do I hold a knife and go, I could stab something? You're like, that's awful. What? And so those weird thoughts, intrusive thoughts that happen in our heads, that's what that is called, the Call of the Void. Yeah. Our cast is right around 26 people or so. Yeah. Josie's the director on that, which is awesome.
Yeah, we wrote the whole show together. We produced it all. I directed, but we are also voice actors in it, and we are also the sound designers.
Right.
Pretty much, wearing all the hats.
As many hats as you can at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's it. That's our show.
So I'm out of curiosity, where did you actually do the production and the recordings?
Oh yes, we're based in Michigan, the Ann Arbor area in Michigan.
So we do it all in-house, and that was a challenge, this obviously because of COVID.
Yeah.
And so we were extra cautious. Usually our whole recording session's like a couple weeks, but this time it was much longer.
Yeah, we
to keep everyone safe.
We basically recorded with each individual actor. We wanted to try to have everybody record in-house, just so that I could direct them and we could kind of make all of the actors feel like they're in the same world. But we did have each actor individually coming in and recording their own dialogue, which created a lot of splicing in the editing room, or a lot of layering in the editing room. But it was fun. It's just a challenge.
There's some characters who talk all over each other in some of the earlier episodes of season 2, and it sounds like they're like all in the same room, but Josie did a great job mixing them together to make it sound like.
So out of curiosity, I know we all use different audio editing programs. What program do you use?
Good question.
Oh yeah.
So we actually use 2. We, once again, because we're indie and we're super poor, we use Audacity just to record.
And then we use a program called
DaVinci Resolve,
DaVinci Resolve,
which is actually a film program, but we do use DaVinci for film.
Hey, there's some other DaVinci
fans.
Cool.
Yeah, we work with DaVinci with like colorization and like stuff for like video edit.
Yeah, well, we do film as well, so we use it for film, but then we're also hey, let's try this for audio.
Yeah, and you know what? I still love Adobe Audition 3.0. I mean, I use others, and that's public domain now. But anyway, as you look back at the whole production of the Call of the Void, what's one thing that sort of sticks out in both of your minds? If you had to share one quick story about the whole production, any aspect.
Wow, that's a great question. I think one of the coolest things is like some of the shorthand that Josie and I have developed as we've like sort of grown. Because when we first started, we had this idea, hey, let's do like basically a television show, television for your ears, super immersive kind of story, and that immediately presented itself when we think science fiction, because we work in science fiction with so many plot holes, so many like hard like angles to sort of like leave on, and it was really, really challenging. So we developed a good shorthand of like just, I don't know, we like have like almost a checklist now where when we begin a season, we say like, okay, well, this is going to be a requirement that will work for the audience. This is something that'll also work. We know some of these things that work, and developing that language.
And some things that don't work.
And some things that don't work. Yeah, many things that don't work as well. That's, I don't know, just like learning that makes you feel like you're growing as an artist and that you're making steps forward, which is super satisfying to me.
Just collaborating with each other is our favorite part of the process. I think it's just from the very beginning, we kind of came up with the whole plot of the story together, the characters together, and outlined the whole story. All 9 episodes, we outline it once, and then go from draft 1 together, draft 2 together, and it's just a really lovely, enjoyable process.
Yeah. Oh, I do have one other thing that I'd like to say. What I think some of the funnest, some of the best things to learn is things that like the audience like falls in love with can be very unexpected to you.
Oh yeah.
See, there's a character that's just a cat inside the show,
and people went nuts for it.
Nuts for the cat. Like they're obsessed with our character. Martin Brody is the name of the cat, named after the Jaws character.
Yeah, named after the character in Jaws because he killed a fish.
Yeah, but people love the cat, or like these other, like some of our side obscure characters. It's just really cool to see who people like grab onto.
Yeah,
and fall in love with.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, very good. Thanks so much. And the last but not least winner earning the Platinum Award, Wendigo. And at first I want to say Wendigo, but it's Wendigo according when you listen to the recording. Scott Davis, first of all, tell us about the name of the program and how it all came about, and anything else you'd like to share. And if you have any of your team members with you, please feel free to introduce them.
Unfortunately, I don't. They just all, everybody's busy. You know, that's just the way it is. Wendigo, just real quickly, is basically based on an old Native American folktale. And that's really all I'm going to do there. You can listen to the show to get a little more history on that. But I've been working with a theater company on and off for years called Big Dog Productions. And last year, when the pandemic happened and everybody shut down, you know, this is a small theater company. And I mean, the rent for the little black box theater that we work out of, you know, it's like $2,500 a month. Just that alone before you start paying for a few of the salaries that are the salaries that are in the tens of dollars. So we did a War of the Worlds thing early last year, and Steve Vernon, who's our director, he basically reached out to a bunch of actors and had them record them at their homes. And then he and I spent 2 months sewing it together, building the sound effects, the atmosphere, whatever, and then put it out as a fundraising tool. And it did actually very well because back, I want to say that was like back in May of 2020, and everybody was hungry for anything because everybody was just kind of dealing with the internet as their entire entertainment app, if you will. But anyway, and then so after that, we started talking about another project, and a gentleman by the name of Chase Harrison, who has been a playwright for the last 10 years and is one of those kids that just crank all the time. Anyway, he had this script that he had produced live, Wendigo, and it's basically 4 actors in a cabin. And so when Steve and I were kicking around some ideas, we reached out to a few people. He was one of them. He threw the Wendigo at us, and we read it. We did a Zoom read with some actors, and just decided, you know, yeah, this could work. And so we ended up putting Chase in the play as one of the 4 buddies, so that we had access to the writer 24 hours a day. Because we, you know, whenever you're developing something new, you know, there's always tweaks, especially when you're transferring from something that's live stage to audio only. You know, you have to somehow fix those visual moments with some kind of audio. And I mean, my God, you know, this was a cabin in the woods. So, you know, and it's a small cabin. So you hear lots of left to right walks and lots of right to left walks and chair sliding, guys sitting up and down, you know, just trying to create something in that little room. But anyway, so this process, we really treated like a stage project. We did 2 weeks. And when I say 2 weeks, 3 nights each week, and we just rehearsed. We rehearsed, I think there was 5 scenes in total. And so each time we'd go in and we would do a scene 3 or 4 times. And we did this with each one of the scenes. And then we came back and we did the first act twice. And then the next night we came and did the second act twice. And then the following week we began rehearsing and recording. And so there was that incredible energy that I had never experienced before, which is that of, you know, actors working together in the same room. We basically took the black box theater. I set up 4 mic positions. I put sound blankets in front of each one of them. I mean, because again, this is October, November at this point when we're doing this. And I'm spraying alcohol all over everything before everybody gets there. I'm spraying alcohol when everybody takes a break. And we're keeping our distance. And of course, most of us were in jobs where we're pretty much working by ourselves anyway. So we all had been tested, you know, so we tried to follow protocol as best we could. But the joy of us coming together each night, first of all, is the only thing any of us were doing outside of our homes. Second of all, we're all old friends. We've been doing theater and film for, some of us 20, 25 years, but there was a real comfort level, and which meant there was a lot of, riding each other's ass about things, and picking on each other, and just really a great camaraderie, if you will. So anyway, so we rehearsed 3 nights we started performing 3 nights a week, and we would do a scene, and sometimes we'd come back and do that same scene again. We never recorded more than 2.5 hours, because you start hearing it in the voices. Actors, especially in a live situation like this, where these guys they're throwing lines at each other and they're reacting to each other's statements and whatnot. And after about 2.5 hours, I noticed early on, I started hearing breaks and just, a little bit of exhaustion. And so we would kind of cut it off every night at 8:30. And that seemed to really help bring that energy back the next day. So we ended up, like I said, we recorded for 4 weeks. So that would have been 12 sessions. And then that was November. Then we went into holiday. So nothing happened. And then in January, I began going back and listening to, and as all of us can attest, when you've got hours of stuff to listen to. That was the other thing about recording each scene multiple times, was that each time we come back and revisit a scene and do it again, the performances got better. The performance got stronger. So what I did in the end is I started by listening to the last recordings of every scene, and then I would work back if there was something really that I didn't like. But for the most part, I got the best performances that way. And then it was just me in a room. And I'm sure a lot of us can attest to that. I didn't share anything with anybody for a little while. Then I'd started sending the director small pieces and whatnot, because everybody's got an opinion, and I just want to get through the first pass before everybody starts sending me their lists. And not that there's a lot of people that get that opportunity. Anyway, I would say for this particular project, and again, my first live recording project, I probably had about 60 hours in the 1 hour finished edit. And I think most of us will agree, because I'm very critical of my work. I'm always trying to make it better. So a lot of times I hate listening to finished work, because all I can hear are the things I didn't get to. It's those little things, and I was actually listening to the recording that's on this website yesterday, and went, a couple of times, I was like, God, I thought I got that. But overall, it was an incredible experience. And then I sent my 5-minute submission in, didn't hear anything for 4 weeks, forgot about it. Then I got the email, hey, we'd like to hear the whole thing, and sent that in, forgot about it. And then I get the email about the Platinum Circle, and I kind of cried, I just because it had been so long ago since we started the project, and it had been such a passionate project for me, and for all of us, the entire team. But I'm deeply honored to be in this circle. But I do want to shout out, because I had made a list of the people that really inspired me in the last 5-6 years. And I wanted to shout out to Jonathan Mitchell and the Truth podcast, as far as the types of stories he does. Jack Ward for his Edict Zero world, which is just some of the most incredible soundscapes. John Dryden, same thing with Tumen Bay. Oh my God, he inspired me as far as building worlds. And then I'm proud to say, and kind of a little embarrassed, Casey Wayland, who I listened to We're Alive, and yeah, man, you just kind of took me to a whole nother level of desire of wanting to be better. And not to mention, I listened to Bronzeville last year, and yes, I was so excited when I saw that season 2 is coming. But anyway, so that's me. That's our story. I hope you guys get a chance to listen to it. I actually went through and gave all of your pieces a good 15-minute read. I listened last night and this morning, just so I could get a sense of what you guys had done. And wow, that's about all I can say. Is I'm honored to be in this group. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much. And as we're winding down, with our time here. The overall experience, I think, for all of us has been fantastic, and continues to be. As we look, as you look at the platinum selections, Back to Nothing, Brooklyn Santa, Bronzeville Season 2, Choreomania, Craig Lockhart, Little Boots, Relativity, The Call of the Void. I want to get that correct there. And Wendigo. All of you, just fantastic. Any final remarks from anyone before we log off in about 30 seconds? Anyone? Russell.
I just wanted to say thank you to you, Steve, and to all the judges that worked tirelessly behind the scenes to make this happen. So thank you.
And thank you to all of you, and the experience I know that we all have in being part of the National Audio Theater Festivals and the Here Now Festival. And we will be back live and in person in Kansas City next year. Again, thank you all so much. Congratulations to everyone. Turn your mics on so we can hear all the applause.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Congratulations.
Looking forward to Kansas City next year.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Good to see everyone again.
Great to see
Bye.
everyone. Bye now.
Lovely meeting
Bye, guys.
you.
Bye.
Lovely meeting you guys too.
Bye.